Kia ora everyone. In this video I want to show you how to evaluate your search results because this is something you've got to do in this assessment. So let's say that I'm going to search for beef casserole. I can put my search in and here obviously I get a lot of different results. So I'm just going to look at the very first one on here to see what it's like. So the first thing to look at is whose website actually is this and are they trustworthy? Well, this is recipes.co.nz. Who are they? It's a little bit hard to tell. It looks like they're part of Beef and Lamb New Zealand, so this is an organisation that exists to sell beef and lamb. I could go back to the home page of this organisation here to see who they are, and this shows me that they're a New Zealand, then they have a meat magazine and so on, so they seem to be someone who knows what they're talking about. If I wanted to know more, I could click on FAQs, frequently asked questions, to find some more information about them. But I'm just going to go back to my search result. Here, is this page any good? Does it have what I actually need? Well, yes it does. It's got the ingredients I'm going to need to make it. That's really handy. It explains what I have to do to make it in quite nice, simple instructions. This language here is easy for me to understand. Brown the meat in 2 to 3 batches. It's not written in a foreign language. It's nice and easy for me to understand. What's more, there's a lovely little video here explaining how to do that. If I'm not going to have my computer with me, when I'm using it, I can click on the print recipe button here. So this is a really good one. So if in the assessment task I was evaluating this, I would write in the boxes down here, what was I trying to find out? I was trying to find a recipe for beef casserole. Did I find it? Yes, I did. How up to date was it? Well, that's a good question. If I have a little look in here, can I find a date on when this was last kept up to date? I can't immediately, no, but I can see that people have written some Twitter posts about this as recently as 1 hour ago and then a few more earlier on in July. So it's clear that this website is frequently looked at by other people, so I guess it's up to date. I can also look at the comments here and see that there's a lot of very positive comments about this recipe as well as some advice, so that makes me more trusting of it as well. How relevant was it? Well, it was exactly relevant. It told me exactly what I needed to do, and it was indeed about a beef casserole of just the kind I wanted to make. Is it trustworthy? Yes, I think it is, because there's lots of good reviews and it's from a trustworthy website, a big organisation, not just Joe Bloggs and his recipe for making it. If I just pop back to my search, I might find some less trustworthy searches, some less good ones further down here. If I keep on going down, these ones here all seem to look fairly good, but if I go on to a much later page here, you get an example of one that's not so good. So this one here, Joe and Sue, ground beef sandwich casserole. This perhaps isn't quite what I'm after. It's to do with ground beef, which is mince, rather than pieces of beef. It's an Italian sausage sandwich casserole, which I'm not sure. And what's more, this is a blog spot, so it's just somebody's blog. You can see up at the top here that this blog is from 2012, so it's a little bit old. It seems to be about making some kind of a sandwich rather than making a casserole. So this is an example of one that isn't so relevant. It's got things in it like Parmesan cheese that I might not actually have in my cupboard, or garlic powder. And the directions here are somewhat harder to understand. What's a 9 by 13 pan? Is that inches or centimeters? I don't know. So this one here is an example of one that isn't quite so good, although it's still not bad. There's still some good responses here about it, but it's also not quite so up to date. So if I was writing about this one, I wouldn't give it quite such a good evaluation. If I was evaluating something different, say I was evaluating an image of a beef casserole, what sort of things would I be looking at? Well, in this case, I might look at things like the size. If I'm just looking for a large image, if I hold this here, you can see it points out what the size is. If I'm looking for a big image, numbers over 1,000 are big, whereas if I were looking for just a small image, you might find that some of these have got much smaller numbers and therefore are much smaller and wouldn't be so good as being large pictures. I might also be interested, if I'm searching for images, as to whether I'm allowed to reuse this image. If they've been labelled for reuse, then I'd be able to use it. So if it wasn't labelled for reuse, I might rate it as not as good. I hope that's helped you. Enjoy.